Hello Godot users, this is Wizard of Westmarch with another Godot tutorial. This time we'll be talking about statics. Note, static is not a concept that is unique to GD script. You have it in, C++, you have it in C Sharp. It's a pretty common concept for programming languages. The basic idea is it is a variable that is shared across all instances of whatever type that you are dealing with. We'll we'll get into more of what that really means in a second, but just keep in mind it is shared information at the type level, and it allows you to basically propagate information if you need it to be the same in everywhere and you want it to be easily transmitted everywhere. You update it once, everyone gets it, and you move on. So, like information that needs to go to a whole lot of AI, if they share a variable that has a static, you can use that to make it work. And instead of sit there and iterating through a group and updating all of them, you update it once in the static. I will say there are a lot of scenarios I would recommend using a auto load instead, which is in many ways a static class. But there are times where static variables inside of more localized classes can make sense. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so we have a pretty basic scene here. We've got two parts we're going to be talking about. The first is these two characters. You'll notice there are a couple of exports on them. One of them has them set on, one of them has set off. Let's go ahead and turn them both off real quick and run it just to show. So nothing happens. It looks exactly the same. Now I'm going to turn on should modulate, yeah, and we run it, and you'll notice both change color. I will give an important caveat here that because I'm doing this in ready, that the order of the nodes mattered. So always keep in mind node order can mess with you if you were doing work in ready. But the basic idea here is based on the export, it will update my modulate. And because you see it's a static value up here, it defaults to white, but whenever I change it to red, it got shared by both characters. So that's one way you can use statics. The second way, we can look at this variable. So you'll notice it internally has a static that is then loaded as part of the class as a variable that's used by these two shared this shared script by the two characters. So now what we're going to do is we will turn this one on, and you will notice they both move because it's changing the update position from vector to 0 as it was down here. So it's changed from that over to this 5 down. And so even though it's not static on magic, because it is static internally, that is still shared. And the important note there, though, which we'll go into more detail in a second, is that means that the the magic would be shared. Like if I put it on the buttons too and used it somehow, then that would also be impacted. It's every instance of this magic class shares that static variable because it's static internally. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Now on to the next section. Okay, so you will notice we also have these three buttons on the screen, and they say power level 00. They are going to update as we press the button. So let's go ahead and run this. So you will notice I click on the first one and it goes 2-2. I click on that one and it goes straight to 3-3. Okay. So when we look, these two buttons, first two buttons share a script, and you'll notice it has a static P level. And then on pressed, we're updating both of its internal variables and then printing them out. So let's take a look at power level real quick. And you'll notice it has a regular variable and its own static variable. Okay, that's interesting. And now we will look at this button 3, which has a separate script. And so here's it's on ready to set up its access to power level. And we connect it. And this one, we're basically doing the same thing if we're updating both of its power levels and then printing both. So let's go ahead and update these again. So we click this one and we get 1 on the first and 6 on the second. The reason for this is because the second button script is not shared by the other two, this power level does not get shared by it. And so it ignores the updates to the other two. Whereas when we look at power level, we notice that this is a static, and so it automatically gets shared by every instance of power level. So keep in mind, you need to put static at the right place in your type hierarchy to only share the data at the level you want. Otherwise, you may find bleeding over of information between areas that you don't expect it to. So today we've talked about how statics let you share information across different parts of the system depending on where you put the static keyword. This can be incredibly useful if you treat it correctly, but it can also lead to confusion if you make mistakes. So making sure you are aggressively debugging and maybe print statementing or however you want to track and see if you're getting information you expect at the places you expect at the times you expect can be very important, because misusing statics can cause very confusing bugs if you're not careful, especially if it's indirectly impacting another value. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. It means you need to be careful and keep in mind the ramifications. Hopefully you found that useful. As usual, if you have any requests, please comment and ask them. And if it's a long form video, I'll give you credit. I hope you have a great day.